Welcome to episode 29 of the Owl About Yarn podcast. I'm Jenny, also known everywhere online as Owl About Yarn, and I am coming to you from Cardiff in South Wales, where it is a lovely bright January day, properly crisp with frost on the ground, blue skies, and I've seen the sun. Amazing. In Wales, in January, the sun's out. So my mood has gone up. It's all wonderful. How are you today? Thank you ever so much for coming back and joining me if you've watched me before, and thank you very much for giving me a go if you're a new watcher. I hope that you enjoy spending some time with me. So I have my cup of tea in my mug that I bought in Wales. Where there's tea, there's hope. Do you have a cup of tea, cup of coffee, cold beverage? Grab something, grab your knitting, and let's have a chat. Lovely. Second cup of tea of the day. The first cup of tea of the day always wakes me up and gets me going. The first cup of tea is always delivered by my lovely husband. He wakes up, goes downstairs, makes himself a cup of tea, and me, brings it to my bedside, prods me awake, because I could sleep until midday if I'm left. And then he goes and gets ready for work while I very slowly wake myself up. So that first cup of the day is what wakes me up. The second cup is the one that I can really sit and enjoy. So I'm enjoying it with you today. So how have you been? Have you been busy? It has not quite been 2 weeks since my last podcast, but I do think I prefer podcasting on a Friday. For lots of reasons. Mondays are generally my grocery shopping day, and so they're a bit busy already, and it kind of felt like a bit of a rush to try and podcast and do the grocery shopping and everything else that needs doing on a Monday. So I decided to bring it back a few days, podcast today, and also because from now on I will be having shop updates every Friday night, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in my shop news at the end of the podcast, but that is the reason, because then I can tell you about whatever's going to be going up that week. So not an awful lot has happened in the 10 days since I last talked to you. I haven't been very well. I've had some sort of weird tummy thing. I wasn't sure whether it might be related to an anxiety attack of some sort, because it always seems to go to my tummy when I'm having a bit of a panic attack, but then my middle son, Ben, he seemed to get a bit poorly as well, bless him. So he had a day and a half off school at the beginning of the week, but he seems absolutely fine now, and I'm pretty much back to normal. So who knows, it could just be one of those weird viruses that's floating around. But the rest of the family are all fine. They're all off at school and work, and I'm here. And as you can see, you might not know, but if you've watched the podcast for a long time, we're back in my office for the first time in a long time, because I've been recording downstairs for quite a while. But I got a daylight bulb for my office, so I wanted to see what the lighting was like for recording purposes up here. So the daylight bulb, combined with the sunshine coming from behind the camera through the window, well, it's not directly through the window, but you know, the brightness of the day coming through, hopefully should make it bright enough. Fingers crossed. We'll just cross all our fingers. But yeah, I've got a few new pieces of art which are up on my wall, which I'll tell you about in my loving section, and the other sections that I've got today are workings, and I don't have any finishings, and I've got a little bit of upcoming, but that's kind of at the end, so after the shop news. So should we get into it? I'll get into workings. I don't have very much to show you on that front, because I've worked on 2 of the things I showed you last time, but I don't seem to have made an awful lot of progress. I think I probably have, but it just doesn't feel like it, and I'll explain why now. So we'll get on to the one where I really haven't made very much progress at all. And that is my monkey socks. Monkey is the pattern, of course, by Cookie A, which is available on knitty.com for free. And I'm using this mystery yarn, which I still haven't worked out what it is and where I got it from. I'll have to go back through podcast episodes or search through Ravelry or something, or see if I can find a reference to where I bought it. Or was gifted it, because I was sure it was a gift, but I could well have bought it. And I am, well, there's the heel, and I'm not too far off doing the toe. I'm maybe a half an inch away from starting the toe. So if I put it on my arm like that, you might, yeah, you can see the patterning. I'm really pleased with how this is patterning up. And this is still the first sock. See, that there's really, what have I done about that much since I last talked to you? Because I know I'd turned the heel, hadn't I? But I just sort of lost my mojo a bit while I was feeling a bit poorly, so I didn't manage to get very much done. Hey ho, never mind. So, that's that. Cookie A monkey socks. I'm using my 2mm higher sharp needles, which are my favourite sock knitting needles. Although I do like the 2mm zings as well, especially if you've got a bit splitty yarn, because they're more rounded at the ends. I was quite careful when I bought the zings to check the points, because I think it was Kay from the Bakery Bears said that she'd had a problem with zings being completely flat. And I did notice that when I was buying them, I think I bought my first pair at Wonderwall last year, I noticed that quite a lot of them seemed very, very flat at the end. So I went through all the packets and picked out ones that were slightly pointier. So I'm not sure if Knit Pro zings would be needles that I'd buy online, and I think they might just be ones that I buy when I'm there and I can pick the actual ones I want. But yeah, so for splitty yarn, they're really nice, and I love that they're all bright colours, because you know me and colour, it's like a magpie to shiny things. But the higher sharps are really nice when you've got a more tightly twisted yarn, so that it's not going to split so much. Or when you've got intricate little patterns, like when you've got cabling and things, and you have tighter stitches on the needles because of it. I like them for that, because obviously the teeny tiny little pointy points can really get in the stitches quite easily. So that's the first thing I'm working on, and hopefully, I'm not going to promise anything because this is me, but hopefully by the next time I talk to you, I'll have one sock on a blocker to show you. Surely I can finish the toe of one sock in 2 weeks. We'll see. We'll see. So, next up. Oh, and that doesn't have a designated project bag, which kind of shows you that I'm not really into it, because I haven't been bothered to find it a project bag. But in my lovely Knit Run Dig sunflower project bag, which I got at a Geeky Puff in Knitpalooza, which has even got very nice complementary lining fabric, I have the beginnings of my Milk Stout cardigan. Now, Milk Stout is a paid for pattern on Ravelry by Thea Coleman, and if I remember rightly, I don't think that there's a really, really good picture of the whole thing on the pattern, but that'll give you a good idea of it. So it's all these lovely cable details which drew me to it, because I don't think I've knit anything with that level of cabling, not in a garment anyway, and I just really fancied the challenge of it, and having something with that much attention into it for me. So that's what I'm going to do. And here's a picture, if I just cover up some of the pattern, there's a picture of the top of the back. Look at those cables running all the way up the back. It's going to be amazing. So far, and I have been working on this off and on, so far I have one completed sleeve, and you can see the yarn there. This is an Aran Merino, hand dyed by me an awfully long time ago. I went quite deep in my stash. This is marinated nicely, and the colourway, which is a bit darker than it's coming up. Hang on, about there. It is quite dark, but the colourway is called Plum Duff, and it's a lovely, really squishy merino. It's going to be really nice and cosy warm. So I've done that first sleeve, and I've also started the second sleeve. So I'm going to have turn-ups, so I turned it up so that I wouldn't get over enthusiastic and think that I'd done more than I had done. So every day I'm putting in my progress keeper. That's my Geeky Puffin progress keeper that I got from Anne Tudor when I went to the retreat in November. Every day I put my progress keeper in so that I can see how much progress I made each day, because it's a 1x1 rib for the sleeves, if you can see, and that's not exactly my favourite stitch to do a lot of, so it keeps me going. If I can see that I have actually done a couple of inches, I'll keep going and do a bit more. So yeah, I'm halfway up the forearm of the second sleeve, and I think it's quite clever of Thea Coleman to tell you to knit the sleeves first, because I think if I'd done all of that cabling and then I was sent to do 2 sleeves in 1x1 rib, I'd probably lose the will to live somewhere up halfway up the first sleeve, and it would languish as a whip in a corner of my room. So with these, they're supposed to be 4.5mm needles, and I am a loose knitter, so I went down to 4mm needles for my first gauge swatch, and it was still way out. It was an inch out. I think I told you this last time I recorded. Luckily, I had some lovely green 3.5mm Knit Pro Zings, and gauge was pretty much spot on. I couldn't believe I had to go down a whole millimetre. It's ridiculous. I mean, how loose of a knitter am I, for heaven's sake? So, 3.5mm needles. It's going to be a very dense fabric with this Aran merino, but I'm usually a very chilly person, so that's not really that bad of a thing, that it's going to be a nice warm cardigan for me. So, quick straw poll. Are you a loose knitter or a tight knitter? Or do you pretty much find that you get gauge? Because I'm wondering if it's an even spread, or whether it's to do with, is it to do with how comfortable you feel with knitting? I don't know. I'm really interested as to why people's tension varies so much, so widely on these needles with the same yarns, effectively. Because I know that a lot of beginner knitters tend to have tighter tension than more experienced knitters. Because I've noticed, especially on podcasts, I've noticed people saying as they've got more experience, their tension gets looser. But I'm just wondering, so where do you come out on the scale? Are you a loose knitter? Are you a tight knitter? Are you pretty much on gauge when you have to do your swatches for things, if you swatch? But is the needle in the pattern generally pretty much spot on for you? So let me know in the comments, or ideally come and have a chat in the Ravelry group, because that's where we can really have a good chat about it. And I'll put the question up on the thread for this podcast. And yeah, I'm really interested to see what you all say about that and how that comes out. Because my mum's a really loose knitter. She made hats and booties for my oldest boy when he was born, and they were massive, and I think they called for a 4mm needle, or a size, what was that, a size 8 old British size, I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, 4mm needles with double knit yarn, and they were huge. They were these massive. Put them, my son had a big head when he was born anyway, but I put them on him and they actually swamped him, and they were sort of the ones with the ear flaps as well, and the braids down from the ear flaps. And I think the brim, I sort of had it like this, and then the ear flaps came down like this, and the braids were right down his front. Bless him, he never managed to wear those hats. And the booties were just absolutely, I think he would have been about 18 months or 2 before he fitted in them. So maybe it's an inherited thing that I'm a loose knitter. I have no idea, but yeah, I would like to hear, but whether it's where you fall on the scale, and whether if your mum or your daughter knit, if you're the similar sort of knitters or what, you know, let me know. Anyway, what else was I working on? Where have I put it? Aha! I have a sewing work in progress. Oh, hang on, where have I put my phone? Because I've got, oh, here it is. I'm making a dress for Erin. I haven't got very far so far, but this is what it's going to look like, except different fabrics. Oh dear, I need to drink more of that tea. I'm not very lucid yet, am I? It's a reversible dress, and it can be done in two lightweight fabrics, or it can be done in a heavier fabric and then a lighter fabric as the lining. And I decided to do it in a heavier fabric and then a lighter fabric as the lining, because my main problem with dresses is that they don't seem to be very warm. The ones that you buy for girls, and on the whole, girls' clothes don't seem to be very warm. I was looking in the supermarket a couple of weeks ago at the winter clothes, and the boys have got the trousers and the lined trousers and the big jumpers and all of this sort of stuff. And the girls, they've got shorts with matching tights and dresses that really aren't that thick. And you think, well, okay, hang on. Maybe girls are known to be colder than boys overall. Maybe it's because we've just been freezing from birth because we put in all these clothes that aren't probably warm. Anyway, Erin is such a girly girl. You've heard me say it before. Erin, if you don't know, if you're a first-time viewer, she's my 4-year-old daughter. She's very opinionated about what she wears. She's very girly, which she doesn't get from me. She's actually making me more girly by her influence. A 4-year-old influence. Oh, anyway. And she loves to wear dresses. She would never wear trousers if she didn't have to. She would always wear dresses, and the girlier the better. So I decided I should make her a winter dress, and this pattern seemed perfect. So you print out the pattern and stick it all together. It's a PDF pattern, and I've cut out the fabrics, but that's as far as I've got so far, so I can just show you the fabrics that I'm using. I've got a lovely blue corduroy fabric for the outside, and it feels lovely, and she loves the feel of it because she's quite a tactile little person as well. And then for the lining and for the detail on the front, I have this polycotton red with the white stars. So these are the, I think these are the front pieces, possibly, that I've cut out. And you see, what I'm going to do is I've drawn some hearts, because hearts are a favourite shape. I've drawn some hearts on some spare fabric of this, and then it's going to go on the blue as a detail on the skirt before I sew it all together. So that, I think, is going to be really lovely, and I've got a massive jar of buttons, so I'm hoping that I've got the right sort of buttons to do up the top. So if you can see the sort of pinafore style of dress, and then I just got to go and find some long sleeve t-shirts for her, and I think she's got a couple in her drawers, but I'm nipping into town to do a bit of shopping later today anyway, so I might, if I've got time, run into one of the shops that has quite a big children's department and see if they've got just some plain long sleeve t-shirts in plain colours, and that will do her nicely. And red and blue and pink are her favourite colours, so she was thrilled to bits when I had the red and the blue. The red fabric with the stars on she chose for herself. When we went shopping, we went to, I think it's called J&B Sewing Machine Shop in Leckwith in Cardiff, which is the far side of Cardiff from where we are. We went there last year when they opened up, and she chose this red fabric with the white stars on. So I got loads of that for her, and I was going to make her a summer dress, but I didn't quite get round to it, so she's having it as the lining of her winter dress now. And then the blue corduroy I bought with this in mind when we went to, oh, do you know what? I can't even remember what it's called. Let me look up the name of the shop. It was when Zoe and Ellie and I went to Penarth. I'm looking it up. I think it's, is it So Over It in Penarth? Let me see. So Lovely in Penarth. So that's their Instagram page. And it was a proper little treasure trove of a shop. It was really little but crammed. You couldn't have got any more in it. Such a good selection of fabrics for such a small shop. I could easily have bought far more than I did, but I bought this big piece of blue corduroy with this dress in mind, and it looks like I've got enough to fashion some sort of a skirt for myself. So that'd be quite cool, and that's something that I may be thinking of doing before I go to Edinburgh. I've got a pattern for a sort of A-line skirt, and I quite fancy the idea of having a bit of a handmade wardrobe going on when I go up to Edinburgh. It wouldn't be entirely handmade because ain't nobody got any time for that. But if I had a new skirt and a nice new cardigan that I've made, you know, that could be quite nice, couldn't it? So we'll see how we can do. But yeah, so hopefully I'll get back to that this weekend and should have some progress to show you by the next time that I record. And that is all of the things that I'm working on at the moment. I have no finishings to show you this week. I might have a half finishing to show you in a fortnight with that sock, who knows. I've also got plans to make a hat for my husband, and it does seem to be getting a bit chillier, so maybe I should crack on with that, because I've got some hand spun that I spun especially for it before Christmas and didn't quite get around to knitting for Christmas, so maybe I'll do it for an end of January present or something like that. But yeah, so I want to knit him a hat, because he's I think he lost his hat after we came home from Norway Christmas before last. He seems to have lost all of his warm weather stuff, his warm clothes for cold weather, so I'll have to get knitting. And yeah, but I haven't got anything finished to show you this week. I haven't done any more on the shirt that I was working on for myself. It's still hanging up here. There's the collar of it, the cuff of it. And the thing is, there's really not that much left to do. I've got to do the button bands and the collar and hem it and sew the buttons on. Maybe I'll find time for that over this weekend as well. Who knows? I don't think we've got any plans for tomorrow. I think tomorrow might be quite a relaxed day. And then Sunday we've got family coming for lunch, so that won't be so relaxed, but it'll be nice. So there'll definitely be knitting, and hopefully I'll find some time for sewing as well. We'll keep our fingers crossed. So moving on into my loving section. Now, I haven't had any stash acquisitions this last fortnight, well, 10 days since I last talked to you. But I was given a little gift yesterday and it was very sweet, so I thought I'd show it to you. Now, as I've mentioned off and on, I do have some issues with anxiety and depression, and I like to call them my brain weasels. I think Zoe used the expression in front of me first and I sort of seized it and ran with it. So I talk about my brain weasels being bad if I'm having a bit of a rubbish day and feeling a bit down. And Ellie saw this pin badge, and while they're not quite brain weasels, she thought they were close enough that it was apt, and she got it for me. She got me a madness hamster. And so at the bottom it says, every night they visit you, every night they come, and bit by bit they steal your brain and feed it to their mum. So it's either the brain weasels or the madness hamsters, but I love it, so thank you very much again, Ellie. And I'm going to have to choose if I'm going to put that on my coat or whether maybe I'll put it on a project bag so I can see it. I do have quite a lot of pin badges pinned onto my curtain over next to where I sit, because I sit by the window at my desk when I'm working up here. So it might live there in between times. And of course I've got some pin badges on here, but this is getting a bit full over here now, so we'll see. But yeah, I love that. Another thing that I wanted to show you was my new picture that I've got. I grew up in a little town on the west coast called Erins, and it's kind of, if you look at a picture of Wales and you see that there's Cardigan Bay in the middle, Erins is almost slam bang in the middle of that curve, and that's where I grew up. And well, I lived just outside, but I went to school in Erins, and so every day I'd come down the hill on the school bus and see that sea view, and it was just fantastic. And there were quite a lot of classrooms that you could sit and stare at the sea as well, which probably wasn't very conducive to learning, but hey. So there's a local artist called Rhiannon Roberts, and she grew up near Erins as well, and she lives in Cardiff now, like me, and she paints these gorgeous colourful pictures, quite whimsical pictures, of all sorts of different places in Wales, but quite a lot of them are places where I have memories, because she comes from the same place as me. So she does lots of pictures of Erins. Aberystwyth is a town a little bit further north, and then lots of the coastal villages and towns around there she does pictures of. But I did love this picture in particular, and I've been trying to choose for ages. I had her calendar last year, which I think I showed you at the beginning of last year, but I decided to get an actual picture this year instead of her calendar. So I chose my favourite picture from the calendar, which is what's at the top, but I got this one, and I think I'm going to stand up and show you a bit more closely, if I can get it so that the glare, if I turn the light off, can I get it? Oh yeah, that's not too bad. But that is a picture of Erins. So it's got the harbour and a little bridge going over the, well, it's a big bridge, big footbridge actually going over the river. And you see here it says the Hive. Well, that's the Hive on the quay, and they make the best ice cream in the world. It's honey ice cream, but it's not honey flavour. It's I think they use honey as the sweetener. I don't like honey, but I love this ice cream. It's the best ice cream in the world, and it's the main reason to go to Erins, I reckon. Apart from all the multicolour houses, which really are all the different colours like that. So there's no wonder I grew up loving colour, is there? But yeah, so that is by an artist called Rhiannon Roberts, and I'll try and remember to put a link to her website in the show notes in case you're interested in having a look at any of her art. And this was my favourite picture from last year's calendar, and that is a whimsical look at Cardiff Bay. So because Doctor Who is filmed, well, it's based in Cardiff, you've got the TARDIS, and the Doctor's scarf is interpreted there. Then this is the Norwegian church, which I showed you in my little vlog last time, and the Pierhead building I think you saw in the vlog. And this is the Millennium Centre. It's not quite this colourful in real life, but it is this bronzy colour, and then it's got cutouts where all these letters come through. And if you are a Doctor Who or Torchwood fan, you probably recognise that as being next to the Torchwood base and next to the rift. But yeah, I love that. I just love how whimsical it is and how colourful and bold and vibrant, so that makes me really cheerful. And then something else I wanted to show you, because I can't remember if I did, so I'll show you this time. That's a card that my husband drew for me, so that's lovely. I bought myself a couple of pieces of art from Amy's Not Dead Yet, and again I'll try and remember to put a link in the show notes. So this of course is the 10th, 11th and 12th Doctors, which is fabulous. I love that. And also I have a Christmassy TARDIS. Oh, you can see my windows reflecting in it. Can I get it to stop? No, I can't. You're just going to have to deal with it. Christmassy TARDIS, all decorated. So these were actually greetings cards, which I chose from her website.
but I decided that they needed to be in frames on my wall rather than sent to anybody.
So they're the things that I'm loving at the moment, and they really make me happy, just seeing the bright colours and everything. Oh look, you can see that a bit better from down here. This is an actual photograph of Erin taken by an artist called Ron Davis, who sadly passed away now, but he was a friend of my dad's. My dad used to do quite a lot of picture framing of his photographs. So I wish you could see it properly, because it's a lovely photograph. But you see they've got, this is a view from the mouth of the harbour, and up there above my finger is where my school was. If you can just see some brighter cream buildings halfway up the picture, that was where my school was, so you could see right out to sea over the harbour. I was spoilt growing up there. It was a lovely place to grow up. And I grew up about 3 miles inland, and we had a massive garden, and as I said, I wasn't a girly girl, so I spent quite a lot of time climbing trees, and if I wasn't climbing a tree, I had my nose in a book, and it was a perfect peaceful place to do that. So I was really very lucky growing up there. Anyway, should we move on? What else did I want to tell you about? So I told you about the new pictures. Oh, yes. So when I went to the Geeky Puff in Knitpalooza, I had some Star Trek bags, and I'm actually going to be listing some with the same fabric this evening, so I'll show you in a minute. But they were Star Trek Next Generation themed, and I've seen some of Star Trek Next Generation because my husband really likes it, but I'd never actually watched it. Oh, hang on a minute. Is that better? We'll see. I'd never actually watched it properly from the beginning. I don't know why. Well, my mum and dad were never into those sorts of TV programmes when I was growing up. It was always crime dramas and quiz shows, so I never watched it when I was younger. But it's all on Netflix, and I've got a Netflix subscription now since I had to watch the Gilmore Girls. So I decided to give it a go from the very beginning. And Erin walked in, and she thinks it's fantastic. And so she came home from school the other day saying, "Mummy, can we watch Star Trek?" So my husband thinks that this is hilarious, that our 4-year-old daughter is suddenly a Trekkie and desperate to watch it. And I just thought it was really sweet. So she's like, "Mummy, who's the baddie? Why are they a baddie? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that?" But she's fascinated. So yeah, who knows? But we already knew that she was a geek because she loves Doctor Who and she loves DC superhero girls. That's her current favourite. So it was only going to come eventually. But yeah. Anyway, I found that really cute, and I thought I'd just tell you about that. Because, yeah, when she sees these bags and she realises that she knows who the people are on the bags, she's going to get very excited. And then she'll probably want to keep one, and then we'll have to have a little discussion about how the things in Mummy's shop are for sale and not for Erin. Which is kind of how it goes. She'll see some wool and she'll want me to knit it for her, and she'll be like, "But why not?" Because it's for the shop. "But why can't it be for my shop?" Okay, right. How do we describe this? Anyway, moving on. So that leads me straight into shop news. I had a fabulous update last week. I wanted to thank you all who supported the shop update. I'm really grateful. I think it was the most successful shop update that I've done to date. And my post office were very happy with me on Monday when I arrived with 2 huge bags full of parcels for them to send off. They were slightly taken aback, but they're also very pleased with me, and I think I'm on their Christmas card list now, so thank you very much for that. Last week was all about the yarn. This week is all about the project bags, and I have all of these. Scrappy sellotape, never mind. All of these are going up in the shop tonight. So I thought I'd show you some of them if you don't mind. I've got a handful of cute little sock-sized project bags, which they're all fully lined, all my bags are lined. And I've got this Paddington one and he's got his coat on with this one, and then we have a nudie Paddington. I'm not quite sure why he's nudie. This must be when he arrived in London before he had his duffel coat. And I've got a sheep one, and I really like this camping fabric. It's so cute with all the little details. But these are a perfect size to fit one cake of yarn or a ball of yarn and a sock project or a small shawl project in. And I really like that because it's compact and it can fit in a handbag if you're taking it off with you somewhere else. You know, if you're off out, you can pop it in the corner of your handbag and it doesn't take up all the room. Just lubricate. I'm starting to go a bit croaky, aren't I? Oh, that's better. Lipstick all over my mug, but never mind. These must. Then I have, see if I can balance this here. Sorry if I make you wobble a little bit. There we go. Good. I've got some Doctor Who themed ones this week as well. So we've got Exploding TARDIS with the sort of galaxy print at the bottom. And I really like these because the blues just go really nicely. And that makes me think of when the TARDIS is spinning through space and time and everything. But these are fully lined as well. These are just plain fabric. And these ones though. And they're a really good size. You'd easily fit 2 or 3 balls of yarn in there, I reckon, together with some notions and your project, obviously. But yeah, I've got a couple like that, and then same sort of size, I have these which are just TARDISes, and then I have red TARDISes with a different galaxy type fabric at the bottom. Well, not red TARDISes, red swirls around the TARDIS. And then I've got a range of patchwork bags. So I've got a big, drawstring patchwork bag with spotty dotty fabric inside. That's really quite big. You'd easily, like I say, you'd fit quite a few balls of yarn. If you look at the size of my hand, you'd fit quite a lot in that, I reckon. And then I've got these larger zip-up patchwork bags as well, in a variety of patterns and colours. So we've got the red and the pink, got a yellow and cream, got one that's all lilacs and purples, and then all pinky flowery loveliness, and I really like those. And they are lined, like the purple one's got purple and white spotty dotties, and that's got pink and white polka dots in there, and that's got a lovely flowery gingham in the yellow patchwork bag, and that's got the same yellow in here because I've got a little bit of a yellowish fabric in with that bag, and they're a really good size as well. And I've got a lot of people on Instagram have been making a bit of a fuss about these, so hopefully they'll go quite nicely. But I've got some Winnie the Pooh bags going up today. I don't know why I'm showing you the back of the bag, I'm showing myself the front of the bag. Not that it makes a lot of difference because they're pretty much the same. And that's got this lovely dotty and flowery fabric inside. But I love that because it's got all of them on it, it's not just Winnie the Pooh. Having said that, I've got just Winnie the Pooh with the handle. Loads of my bags have these handles because I find them really useful if I'm standing up and crafting, or if I want to attach it to a different bag or the chair that I'm sitting on. Like this chair has, it's a dining chair, so it's got this on the back, and so if I'm at knit night I can hook my bag over the back of the chair and just pull the yarn from behind me to keep knitting if there's not room on the table, or if people have got drinks or food on the table or something. And I've got this really nice yellow fabric in here again, the yellow flowery gingham. But yeah, there's Pooh Bear with his honeycomb fabric. And then I have that same Pooh Bear and the other Pooh Bear and Paddington in little popper bags, which are just a teeny tiny bit bigger than the first sock bags that I showed you. But these are all popper fastenings. And that's got blue and white spotty dotty fabric. I made the most of a local fabric shop having a sale a few months back, and stocked up on really nice polycottons to line my bags, because I get a bit bored eventually of just the plain fabrics inside. Batman. Ah, I love this. It makes me think of the 1960s Batman, where you see them walking up the side of the building. So I really like that fabric because of that. Maybe that's just me. And then these are the Star Trek bags that I was telling you about before. Next Generation. So you've got Wesley Crusher, and you've got Deanna Troi and Data and Worf, who, it's flickering on my computer as I move it. It looks like Worf is blinking, but I'm just going to, yeah. You got them all there, Captain Picard. And I've got 3 of these, and they're all drawstrings, and they've got little handles, not big enough to put over your hands, but definitely big enough to just hold on to like that, or perhaps have a carabiner clip to attach them to a bigger bag, or to hook over a chair. It'd be big enough to hook over a chair. So that's those, and they're all lined with navy blue fabric. And then finally I've got a couple more patchwork bags, but these are square patchwork with a little bit of embellishment. So this one's got a lacy trim, and that's lined with plain cream fabric. And then this one has a ribbon trim with little pearly buckles, and they are all good sizes. But all the sizes are on my Etsy shop. I always put the sizes in centimetres, seeing as we're supposed to be metric. And I think in Britain, on the whole, I think we're reasonably comfortable with inches and centimetres, because we've kind of been brought up with both. I believe in America you're still more inches than centimetres, is that right? And then of course Europe will be metric, so you'll all be centimetres. You'd be more comfortable with that. What about the rest of the world? Have I got anybody watching from Australia or New Zealand or Asia? What do you use? Do you use centimetres or inches? Let me know, because if I need to be putting inches down as well on my measurements, then I need to know, because at the moment I've just got centimetres. So as you saw, there are an awful lot of bags going into the shop update tonight, so hopefully you like what you see. It will be 7, now did I say 7 o'clock or 7:30? Ah, bother. I think I said 7 o'clock, but if you subscribe to my newsletter, which will be going out this afternoon, that will have the exact time, and also it will say, I will say on Instagram when the shop update is going live. So it's either 7 or 7:30 my time tonight. It's not too different, is it? And I think that's just about it. I wanted to, as I said, I wanted to thank you for the response to my update last week. I did pass a milestone this week. I had my 1000th sale yesterday in my Etsy shop, which was very exciting to see that number tick over. So I really am so grateful to all of you for supporting my shop and for letting me carry on building this business and do this thing that I love doing. So here's to bigger and better things in 2017. Here's to new yarn ranges and new colourways and maybe some kits, maybe some new patterns. Who knows what this year is going to bring, but it's all going to be very exciting. So thank you so much for sticking with me and watching the podcast. I really hope that you've had a lovely couple of weeks and that the next couple of weeks are gorgeous for you. I will see you, well, it'll be February by the next time I see you. And hopefully with a couple of finished things to show you and a good lot of progress. I want cables to show you on my cardigan. I want to be on the body of it and with visible cables. So keep your fingers crossed for me and keep your eye on Instagram to see how much progress I make on that. But have a lovely week or two and happy crafting. Look after yourselves. I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.
Thank you so much for watching my podcast. You can find me pretty much anywhere online as owlaboutyarn.com. I'd love it if you would give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any future episodes of the podcast. See you soon!